This happened in October of last year. I'm Ethan, and I live in a small town in Montana, right on the edge of the vast forested area known as the Bitterroot Range. There are tons of abandoned farms out here, old military bunkers, and endless frozen forests. My friends, Logan and Miles, and I were really into what the locals called ruin crawling, basically exploring forgotten places. We weren't vandals or thrill seekers. It was all about the vibe, the stillness, the history, the strange sense that the world had moved on from these places. But this trip was different. It was terrifying. And to this day, I don't know what exactly we encountered. The idea came from Logan. He'd been browsing this strange locked paranormal forum, something like paranormalmap.net, where people posted about dead zones, silent areas, and forgotten Cold War infrastructure. One of the threads showed photos of an abandoned artesian well supposedly built for some classified military project back in the 60s. The photos were blurry, almost black and white, like stills from a horror film. One of the captions read, "Still buried deep in the forest, 240 feet down. Don't go waking what sleeps." Logan naturally got obsessed. "This is either a hoax or the ultimate find. We have to check it out," he said. A few days later, on a Saturday, we loaded up Logan's pickup with everything we'd need: flashlights, masks, ropes, snacks, even radios. The drive was long. First a stretch of highway, then nearly an hour on what barely qualified as a road anymore, more like a deer trail. GPS died halfway there. We were navigating purely off the offline map Logan had saved. When we finally found the site, it didn't look right. It looked too intact. Despite supposedly being abandoned for decades, the structure around the well was in decent shape. A rusting metal ring embedded in a cracked concrete platform, half covered in moss. But the most unsettling part? The access hatch was open. There was a ladder welded into the shaft wall, descending deep into the darkness. At first, the only thing we heard was the echo of our own movements. But as we got deeper, we began to hear a kind of low rumble, like wind or breathing. We told ourselves it was just air currents in the shaft, but the further we went, the stranger it felt. After maybe 10 or 12 minutes, we reached the bottom, and that's when we realized this wasn't just a well, it was a bunker. The walls were solid concrete, damp and frozen. There were loose cables, broken pipes, and old rusty control panels everywhere. Some indicator lights were still flickering, even though there couldn't be electricity. Security cameras were bolted into the corners, all pointed at a thick steel door at the end of the hallway. The door was covered in rust and deep scratches. We were slowly approaching. Miles was already filming everything on his GoPro. At that moment, something crashed into the door from the other side, heavy. The whole wall shook. We jumped back. The air instantly became colder. Logan grabbed my shoulder, pulling me away, but Miles, the idiot, kept recording. He was whispering, "There's no way, no one could have gotten here." And then we heard it. Shuffling. Like something clawed and heavy was dragging itself across the concrete outside the door. And then, a voice. But it wasn't a person. It was like a voice imitating language, like an old radio show, fast-forwarding and skipping over syllables it didn't quite understand. We didn't need to talk. We just ran. No hesitation, no coordination, just pure panic. I was the last one on the ladder. About halfway up, I made the mistake of looking down. Something was moving at the bottom of the shaft. Tall. Too tall. Too many limbs. Humanoid in shape, but its face was changing, like it had too many eyes, all twitching and blinking at once. It wasn't chasing us, it was just watching. When we reached the surface, the hatch slammed shut behind us, sealing with a heavy metallic clang. There was no lock, no mechanism. Just locked. A week later, Logan's forums discovered that the information about was gone. The entire domain was dead. The user who had made the post, deleted, and Miles's GoPro footage, corrupted. The file still exists, but when you open it, all you see is static, distorted audio and 1 second, just one, of a black figure at the very end, standing perfectly still in the hallway. We never went back, and we never will. Because every now and then, Logan, Miles, and I. We all hear a voice in our dreams. The same distorted upside-down radio whisper. My name is Josh. I'm 31, and a year ago I inherited a house from my Uncle Harold, who died suddenly. Heart attack, the police said. He had lived alone on the outskirts of a small town in Arkansas, in an old house where every floorboard creaked like it had its own ghost choir. The family didn't mourn much. Harold was odd, almost a recluse, and after Grandma died, he barely left the house. When they offered me the house, free with full ownership, I didn't hesitate. I was tired of the city, of rented apartments, of people in general. I wanted peace, quiet, a place to think, and for a while that's exactly what I got. The house was old but solid. I moved in during spring. At first I focused on fixing it up, patching the roof, painting walls, clearing out old furniture. I threw away most of the stuff. But there was one thing I decided to keep. In the kitchen, beneath an old wooden shelf, hung a rotary phone. Beige, chipped, but still commanding attention. I unplugged it, removed the cord from the wall, and left it there as a sort of antique. It felt like a thread connecting me to my uncle. The first 2 weeks were peaceful. I worked, read, sat by the fireplace in the evenings with a book. I slept well, ate simply. The only sounds were the wind and the rustling trees. That all changed on the 13th night. I was in the bedroom around 2 a.m. The house was silent. Then suddenly the phone rang. Deep, loud, metallic. It sounded like time had folded in on itself, and I was in 1963. I froze. The phone was unplugged. I had checked it myself. Slowly I walked to the kitchen. The phone was ringing. The rotary dial slowly returned to place after each chime. I picked up the receiver. Silence. Just a faint hissing, like someone breathing, trying not to be heard. I whispered, "Hello?" No response. Just that heavy breathing, like someone barely holding themselves back. I hung up. My heart pounded in my chest. I convinced myself it was some kind of electrical glitch. But the next day I took the phone down, removed the wires, disassembled it completely. That evening I put it in the basement, stuffed it in an old box, and covered it with a blanket. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 days later, around midnight, the phone rang again. I didn't realize at first where the sound was coming from. Then I recognized it. It was coming from the basement. I stood in the kitchen listening to the sound. Clear, sharp, like someone was calling just for me. I went downstairs with a flashlight. The box was closed. I opened it. The phone was ringing despite being completely dismantled. No wires, no plug, just ringing. I picked up the receiver and heard a voice. "You opened the door." I didn't know what to say. The voice was hoarse, low, but human. The words were slow, like they were spoken through rotting lungs. I threw the phone into a ravine behind the house, buried it. Thought it was over. The next morning I woke up to knocking. 3 slow knocks on the door. I checked the time, 3:17 a.m. I knew I hadn't opened the gate. The back door was always locked. But the sound came from the basement door inside the house. I approached. The bolt was still in place, but underneath the door was a piece of wire, just like the phone's. It looked fresh, not dusty, like it had just been cut. I called an electrician. He checked everything, wiring, outlets, phone lines. He said the phone couldn't possibly have worked. The lines had been dead for years. I then called my friend Tom from the city. He told me something strange. "Did you know your uncle called the police 3 times?" he asked. He said someone was calling him every night, whispering, telling him not to open the door. Cops came, but they never found anything. No one in my family had mentioned this. My mom waved it off. He had problems in the head. But I started reading some old journals I'd found in the dresser. The entries were eerily familiar. "He calls every night, says if I answer the door stays closed. But if I don't, he'll come in. Sometimes I hear him walking through the house. I won't open the door, I keep it shut. The phone knows his name, I must not speak it. He said if his name is spoken in the house, it's an invitation." I didn't believe in ghosts. Still don't. But after that night, I stopped believing in normal. At 3:17 a.m., the lights went out. The whole house, like someone flipped a giant switch. I stepped into the hallway with my flashlight. Then I heard the phone ring. I didn't know where it was coming from. I had thrown it out, but the sound was real, clear, insistent. I followed it and froze. The phone was back on the wall, in the exact same place it had been on day one, in the kitchen. The dust was gone. It looked brand new. I didn't want to answer, but it kept ringing. After 17 rings, I gave in. I raised the receiver to my ear, and the voice said, "You said his name." After that, everything got worse. I heard footsteps at night, heavy, deliberate. They'd climb the stairs and stop at my bedroom door. Sometimes the doorknob would turn slowly, even though I always locked it. One morning, I woke to find every door in the house open, even the closets. I began to lose my mind, stopped sleeping, lived by flashlight, locks, boarded windows. But every night he called. Sometimes from the kitchen, sometimes the basement, sometimes from the bedroom with the receiver lying next to me. I ran, moved to my sister's place in another state. The house is empty now. Recently, a realtor called. He wants to list the property. I said I didn't care, but this morning I received a letter. Inside was an old rotary dial, no return address, no stamps. Just one line, handwritten on the back of the envelope. "You opened the door, Josh. You didn't close it.